one universal truth is government hates competition. All right. I don't know BitInstant or your company structure, but let's say random Joe is going to start a company. He's going to have payroll. He's going to have contracts with outside sources. He's going to be vending. He's going to be outsourcing some in-house stuff, accounting. Okay. If that person does everything without a dollar sign, how much attention are you going to be getting? How much attention are you already seeing from nice people from Washington?
So to repeat the question is basically, what are the feds going to do to people who are using Bitcoin? And the answer is, if you're using Bitcoin in business, you're still required to abide by every law and rule that they set. Otherwise, men with guns will come and hurt you. And I think the smart thing to do is to do your best to abide by those laws. But Bitcoin makes it so incredibly easy for people to have complete financial privacy and to do whatever they want with their own money that lots and lots of other people that aren't fine, upstanding citizens like we have in this room might choose not to pay some of their taxes or might choose not to report some of the sales tax that they owe or things that they bought. So it'll make it just incredibly easy for anyone to do whatever they want with their own money. And there's, from a regulatory standpoint, short of the men with guns coming to your front door, there isn't really anything they can do about it.
I have two questions, one relating to a previous topic, and that is it fair to say that the obstacle to entry is related to maybe Metcalfe's law being at work in the Bitcoin ecosystem? That is, now we have a network developed and its usefulness is a function of the number of people in the network. Is that the primary obstacle that you see to developing a competing similar network?
So the question again is, what's to prevent a competing currency to Bitcoin from coming into existence?
I think the question was, is one of the largest challenges the network effect requirement, that when Bitcoin's only used by 2 people, it doesn't matter. And yeah, that's why it's been 4 years and a lot of people still don't know what it is. That's why it's grown not at an exponential pace, but only sort of a steady increase, is because the system grows in value in proportion to how many people are using it. And so in the beginning, it's not worth much. But of course, that's a double-edged sword, right? As soon as it gets the network, then it has the network effects benefiting it. And that's what we're seeing more and more now. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people using it. So every day it's getting more useful. And what, the dynamic that used to be an impediment has now become a strong force, a catalyst to push it forward even more. So I think a question like that would have been very appropriate on day one. Like, this is never going to work. You're never going to get even a handful of people to start using it. Fortunately, I don't have to be in that position of telling you it will work because it's already there.
So how does it work?
How does Bitcoin work?
How do I start using it?
Sure. If you're in the US, probably one of the easiest ways to make an account would be to, if you're watching online, you can go to www.instawallet, I-N-S-T-A, wallet, W-A-L-L-E-T.org, and it will instantly create a Bitcoin account, and as long as it takes the website to load. So in about 2 seconds, you can have your first Bitcoin account. The URL is your username and password. Do not share the URL with anybody. But even if you have a smartphone right now, you can go to that website and boom, you have a Bitcoin wallet with a Bitcoin address, and you can now send and receive money with anyone anywhere in the world. There are other wallets that are a bit more complicated to set up but have much higher levels of security and are much more trustworthy. A good place to start is bitcoin.org, and they have lists of all sorts of things, or weusecoins.org is another great website. We're all happy to stick around after the talk here, and we'll help anybody who wants to get set up on their smartphone with their first Bitcoin wallet as well.
How does it work?
The question is, how does it work? But can I ask in what sense?
How?
Sure. So the way Bitcoin works is anybody can download the Bitcoin software and have it start running on their computer. And all these computers that have the Bitcoin software installed on it are connected to all the other computers that have the Bitcoin software installed on it. And all traditional financial systems like PayPal or Bank of America or Visa, they have an account ledger on their servers that keeps track of whose account has how much money in it. That same account ledger with Bitcoin isn't stored in any one place. It's stored on all the computers that have this Bitcoin software on it, and they all update that ledger in steps together. And because that ledger is not in any one single place, there's no place that government agents can go to and say, change this ledger and remove all of Joe's money, or take the money from Billy and give it to Bob. And there's no way that they can control that because that ledger is distributed on everybody's computer that's running the Bitcoin software all over the world. And that's the genius part about Bitcoin, is that there's no single point of failure. It's just spread out, in the cloud, across the internet, across the world. So
there a transaction fee?
So when you're exchanging the question is there a transaction fee to use Bitcoins? And the answer to that is, when you're sending Bitcoins to someone else, there's basically no fee. Occasionally there's a small fee, but that fee is optional, and it is less than 1 penny. So you can send $1 million worth of Bitcoins from here to Moscow for less than a penny. When you're exchanging from dollars to Bitcoins or Bitcoins to dollars, there's a small conversion fee, just like if you're exchanging dollars to euros or euros to dollars.
Back when Bitcoin was around 12, people were complaining that it was getting too expensive to mine. Now that it's up around 30, I assume it's a little bit better to mine them. How do you get into mining? What's the best software to use?
So I think a good way to think about Bitcoin mining is the same way you think about gold mining. Technically, you could go in the mountains and dig for gold and mine some gold, and you could earn a little bit of gold that way. But it's better to be left done to professionals, and you can earn more money doing some other job. At this point, it's pretty much the same way with Bitcoin. Technically, you could earn some Bitcoins by doing Bitcoin mining, but your time is much better spent doing whatever your traditional career is, and then using the dollars that you earn from that to buy Bitcoins.
When the network was a lot smaller and there were only a few thousand people using Bitcoin, most mining was done over your CPU, which is your computer processor that's in every computer. So you can open up your laptop, and I remember people telling me they would get a few thousand Bitcoins or a few hundred Bitcoins, but Bitcoins were only worth pennies back then. As the network got larger and progressed, people realized that you can mine a lot more efficiently using graphics card processing. So that was the next level. And then everyone who was using CPU kind of got fizzled out because it wasn't able to keep up with GPU, graphics card. Over the months, I should say, it feels like years, but over the months, even further technological advancement came, and someone developed FPGA boards, which are being able to use a cluster of graphics card processing and do a lot more mining. Until very recently, ASIC boards were developed, which are application specific just to mine Bitcoins. These are huge server computers. Actually, the first ever ASIC was developed by Yifu Guo, sitting right there. He sold about $1.5 million, $1.5 million worth of ASIC mining programs in his first day. And now these miners are being shipped all over the world for people to do mining. So the short answer, like Roger said, there's a high cost of entry to get into mining. You need to have a low cost of electricity. You need to really understand how servers work and how the Bitcoin protocol works. But the beauty of it is that this is a whole industry for people who understand these things. So there's a whole economy for mining. There's a whole economy for companies like ours. Bitcoin developed this beautiful entrepreneurship program that I was telling someone before, how you can have people that didn't really want to get into any conventional industries or whatever, and they get into Bitcoin, and it's an open playing field. There are so many new ideas that you can do that aren't developed yet in Bitcoin, and it's so easy to get started up with a Bitcoin startup.
And again, the short version is, if you're new to Bitcoin, don't worry about Bitcoin mining for the same reason you wouldn't worry about gold mining. So next question.
I've read in the past that there's been somebody's wallet's been stolen by somebody else, and I understand it's not a failure of the basic cryptography of Bitcoin. But I didn't really understand how that could occur, and how does someone who doesn't know that much about it protect themselves from that type of thing?
So the question is, how do you keep your Bitcoin safe from hackers? And I think there's a couple points that should be taken note of. One is, don't let other people hold your Bitcoins. You should keep them on your own device. Number 2, don't tell anybody your password. Number 3, don't install all sorts of random computer programs onto your computer from the internet where you're not really sure of the source. And in the near future, people will actually develop specific hardware devices that are specifically solely dedicated to storing Bitcoins. and they'll be really safe, and they won't be particularly susceptible to any sort of these other attacks. And lots of really smart people are working on devices that'll make it really, really easy for the average Joe to safely store their Bitcoins. But it does take some careful planning to be careful with them, and Erik has them.
Yeah, Bitcoin requires a certain degree of personal responsibility, and this is very difficult for some people to come to terms with. Lots of people have lost Bitcoins because they were careless or foolish with them. But if you take a little bit of time to educate yourself on proper practice with it, like a gun or a car, you can use it very safely. The key thing to understand with Bitcoins is that it is like gold. So wherever it's located, it has risk of theft at that location, or risk of loss. If you bury your gold in your backyard and you forget where it is, it's gone forever. If you put your Bitcoin somewhere and you forget where they are, or you forget your password, they're gone forever. Similarly, if you leave your gold at a bank or with a trusted party, and that party turns out to be not so trustworthy, the gold can be gone. Just the same with Bitcoin. If you leave it with someone else and they're not trustworthy, the Bitcoins are gone. So you always have to understand the risk profile of each place where you might store your Bitcoin. And it's very easy to store them in multiple places. You know, the Bitcoins on my phone are not very secure. If someone stole this phone, they could get my Bitcoins. So I don't keep them all on this phone. I keep most of them safe. It doesn't matter, you know, someone can steal my phone. The phone's worth more than Bitcoins on it. So you just have to be smart in how you manage your money and learn it. You know, Bitcoin is real money. So learn how to use it safely. That's true of all things that are powerful, right?